All right, so let's take a closer look at the judicial branch in Georgia. So, the judicial branch in Georgia is responsible for two things: interpreting the state laws and administering justice. So, you think about it, what it means by interpreting state laws. Basically, the judicial branch looks at laws that are already on the books and any future laws to make sure they're being applied properly and to make sure they don't go against Georgia's state constitution. Now, when it comes to administering justice, so we know this branch of government deals with our court systems. So, of course, we know we think about court, we think about people that have committed some kind of crime. So, as the judicial branch is responsible for prosecuting those crimes. Now, depending on what crime you committed, depends on what court level hears it. But all in all, the common theme is they prosecute any kind of criminal offense. So this is the Georgia State Supreme Court building in downtown Atlanta. So there are two types of crime or in two types of laws I want to address right now: criminal and civil. So criminal law is basically, what it says: laws that protect society against criminals. Now, if you ever commit a crime, you're going to be charged in one of these two categories: either a misdemeanor or a felony. Now, misdemeanor is your more lighter weight crimes. So think about your misdemeanors like maybe you hit somebody with your hand or fist, or drinking while driving, things like that will be misdemeanors. So because they're not really as severe crimes, the punishment is usually lighter. So you might spend less than a year in jail, get a fine, probation, things of that nature. Now, felonies are your more extreme cases. So that means you've done rape, murder, um, you vehicular homicide, things of that nature. So because it's a more severe crime you committed, the punishment is more severe. So if you ever get charged with a felony and you're found guilty, you could expect to spend at a minimum 1 year in jail, but usually it's more than a year. Now, civil law is your laws that deal with any kind of monetary disputes. So, a civil case is when, think about like a lawsuit, when you think about civil law and civil cases. So, civil cases is basically when one person is suing another person over monetary damages. So, they bring about a tort, and a tort is a civil wrongdoing against an individual. So, basically, if let's say somebody owes you money, they won't pay your money back. So, you take them to court, to civil court. So you will be considered a plaintiff because you are bringing a lawsuit against somebody else seeking to get your money back. Now, there are times when criminal and civil cases can overlap. So, what I mean by that is, so you could be charged with a crime and also be sued for your role in that crime. So, let's think about the O.J. Simpson case. O.J. Simpson was accused of killing Ron Goldman and his then wife, Nicole Simpson. Now, he was charged criminally for that, and although he was found not guilty by a jury of his peers, Ron Goldman's family did turn around and sue him for wrongful death for his role in killing Ron Goldman, and his family did indeed win that lawsuit. So O.J. Simpson was required to pay them some kind of financial compensation. Now, we think about the steps in the criminal justice process. So let's assume you get arrested. Hopefully, none of y'all ever do. But there are steps that must be taken. So step one is the actual arrest. So that means you're being put in handcuffs in the back of a police car, taken to custody. Step two is your booking. So the booking is basically your fingerprint. You get a arrest report made, mugshot, all of that. Once you've done that, then you must make an appearance before the judge. And the judge will then hear the charges that are being about against you, and the judge will determine whether or not to give you bail. So bail is basically when the judge says, okay, well, you can put up this amount of money, and but you have to come back to court for your court date. Depending on the charges, you may or may not get bail. Then after bail, we get a grand jury indictment. So basically, that's when a grand jury is brought together and the prosecutor presents the evidence to them. and they determine whether or not there's enough evidence to charge you for a crime. Then we have our arraignment. So an arraignment is basically when you have your formal reading of charges against you. So whether you commit a murder or whatever it is. Then step 6. Now all these steps are before trial. So to avoid trial, what prosecutors try to do is get you to plea bargain or admit you're guilty. So plea bargaining basically means that the prosecutor, presents some kind of lesser charge and lesser punishment for you, but you must admit you're guilty. So if you do that and take the plea bargain, then usually it avoids trial. Now, if you don't take the plea bargain, then comes trial. So when it comes to the actual trial, there are a few more steps. So step 1, and when you get to the trial phase, that means they're going to select a jury. So remember, one of your responsibilities is serving on a jury. So 12 Georgia citizens will be serving on a jury, and they have to find them. Then step 2, both attorneys will make opening statements, basically saying what they hope to prove in their case. Then step 3, they're going to present evidence to say whether or not you're guilty or not guilty. Step 4 will be the closing statements. So basically, both attorneys make their final arguments. Then once they make their final arguments, the jury then goes and deliberates and they come back and say whether you're guilty or not. Then if you're found guilty, you'll be sentenced by a judge, and then you'll go to jail. Now, you're not happy with your sentence or your verdict, and you want to overturn it, you'll have to file something that's called an appeal, and that may or may not work depending on the case at hand. All right, so we're gonna stop right here for today.